Hello, dear learners. I welcome you all to this MOOC on heritage tourism once again. Today, we are going to discuss cultural and heritage tourism of Unit 2 of the Module 3. Cultural and heritage tourism have emerged as major segments of the global tourism industry, drawing visitors motivated by the desire to engage with destinations' history, cultures, and traditions. While often used interchangeably, heritage tourism and cultural tourism both involve experiences of the past and the present culture of a place. Heritage tourism encompasses all elements of the human past and the visitor's experience and desires associated with them. It includes visits to built heritage like monuments, historical buildings, living cultures like traditional lifestyles, festivals, and contemporary arts. Dolan Timothy defines cultural heritage tourism broadly as encompassing built patrimony, living lifestyles, ancient artifacts, and modern art and culture. Likewise, the UN World Tourism Organization defines cultural tourism as a activities where the visitor's essential motivation is to learn, discover, experience, and consume the tangible and intangible cultural attraction or products in a tourism destination. These attractions include the material, intellectual, and spiritual and emotional features of a society, arts and architecture, historical heritage, culinary traditions, music, literature, and living cultures with their value system and beliefs. Early scholarship traced cultural tourism to the post World War II leisure boom. By the 1980s, the term gained currency as travel to museums, historic sites, and the arts become mainstream. Cultural heritage tourism is now understood to transcend mere sightseeing. It engages visitors in learning about community identities, beliefs, and values. Some frameworks, in example, use of heritage by Lorenzana Smith, emphasize the socially constructed nature of heritage, arguing that heritage is a process of meaning making rather than fixed artifacts. Nevertheless, academic studies commonly note that heritage tourism involves serious heritage tourists seeking meaningful personal connections with the past. Cultural tourism, more broadly, includes both heritage and other cultural activities like performance, festivals, living arts. For instance, Timothy notes that cultural and heritage tourism often overlap urban cultural attractions and rural historic sites. Both contribute to the visitor experience. In short, cultural heritage tourism invites travelers to consume and engage with both tangible heritage like built monuments, artifacts, landscapes, and intangible heritage like rituals, folklore, crafts, languages, traditions. This global heritage economy now underpins many tourist destinations and strategies around the world. Theoretical foundation of cultural and heritage tourism. The academic foundation of cultural and heritage tourism draw on multiple frameworks and definitions. Timothy's seminal text, Cultural Heritage and Tourism, provides an overview. It states that heritage is what we inherit from the past and use in the present, and that heritage tourism can involve anything from ancient sites to modern art museums. In practice, this means heritage tourism includes living culture and recent cultural expression as long as they are linked to community values and history. Timothy also notes that the commonly drawn distinction between heritage tourism, antiquated relics, rural sites, and cultural tourism, urban contemporary arts, is often overstated. In reality, Both involve similar motives of learning and cultural edifications. For example, a modern performing arts center like the Sydney Opera House can become a heritage site in its own right. Other theorists have explored the meaning and politics of heritage. As we discussed in the previous unit, Lorajane Smith introduced the idea of authorized heritage discourse, critiquing how certain narratives, often colonial or state centered, dominate official heritage designations. While not a tourist focused theory by itself, Smith's work highlights that what counts as heritage is contested and influenced by power. Stephen William Boyd has written on heritage tourism management, especially issues of authenticity. For instance, authenticity debates consider whether what tourists see is genuine in bracket objective original or simulacrum recreated for tourists. Timothy and Boyd note that authenticity is ultimately subjective. Visitors and communities may attribute different meaning to sites. Constructivist scholars argue that authenticity is negotiated. Tourists may accept stage traditions if they feel culturally resonate. In heritage tourism, then managers often face the challenge of presenting cultural in ways that feel authentic without dismantling the heritage. Greg Richards and other tourism scholars emphasize that cultural tourism has evolved with trends in society. Richards' review describes how growth in affluence and travel in the late 20th century fueled what he calls the heritage boom and a perception of cultural tourism as a positive economic boosting activity. Cultural tourism fragmented into niches: arts tourism, gastronomy, creative tourism, etc., reflecting an expanded notion of culture. With this growth came challenges. Notable scholars like John Urey and Philippine have remarked on tourist gaze and cultural commodification, while MacArthur and others observed that over-tourism at popular heritage sites can degrade the cultural experience. Indeed, as Greg Richards notes, by 2013, UNESCO reported that roughly 39% of international tourism was cultural, validating long-held estimate. A recent report says roughly 40%. UNESCO defines cultural tourism broadly, underscoring that it now includes ways of life, creativity, and everyday culture, not just monuments. Several theoretical models classify cultural tourism. Example, Cohen categories of experiential traveler or heritage sites, uniqueness, rarity, representative value. In practice, managers apply this framework to design tourism products. For example, heritage resource typologies range from monumental sites to vernacular architecture and intangible practice like festivals, crafts. A common framework also distinguishes tangible heritage versus intangible heritage. A living culture perspective seen in Stephen William Boyd's later work stress community stewardship of traditions as part of heritage. In short, the field synthesized concepts from heritage studies, anthropology, and tourism. Heritage is seen as a socially constructed and evolving, while tourism is a form of cultural consumption and exchange. Global perspectives on cultural heritage tourism. Globally, cultural and heritage tourism is recognized both as a driver of development and a sector needing careful stewardship. According to UNESCO and UN agencies, cultural tourism has grown into a multi-billion-dollar industry. The 2018 United Nations World Tourism Organization's report, Tourism and Culture Synergies, highlighted that cultural tourism accounted for nearly 40% of international arrivals, Most national tourism policies now prioritize cultural heritage. In one survey, 89% of countries reported cultural tourism as a part of policy and expected further growth. International organizations have safe heritage tourism concepts. The UNESCO World Heritage Convention of 1972 elevated many cultural landmarks, example Taj Mahal, Machu Picchu, to outstanding universal value, boosting global tourism interest and conservation efforts. There are now 44 World Heritage Sites in India alone. Out of these, 36 are cultural, a sign of India's rich heritage portfolio. UNESCO also created the Intangible Cultural Heritage List, acknowledging living traditions like dance, ritual, oral histories as heritage. This has had tourism implications. For instance, UNESCO's representative list of intangible heritage includes practices like Sankirtana singing in Manipur, which in turn attracts cultural visitors. More broadly, UNESCO's policy frameworks, example, the 2025 Convention on the Protection of the Historic Urban Landscape, link heritage tourism to sustainable development and community engagement. For example, UNESCO's 11th Sustainable Development Goal explicitly calls for safeguard heritage, and its World Heritage and Sustainable Tourism Program promotes best practice at cultural sites. Academically, cultural tourism research has diversified as research notes social science turn in bracket mobility, performance, creativity, digital have influenced the field. New niches like dark tourism, visiting site of tragedy, and creative tourism, travel for creative experience are studied alongside traditional heritage tours. Scholars also debate the heritage industry versus community rights, emphasizing that tourism should empower local custodians of culture rather than exploit them. For example, Timothy's later chapters discuss how indigenous communities can leverage heritage tourism for empowerment. Environmental and social sustainability are now central concern. Case studies of over tourism at UNESCO sites, example, crowded monuments, shrine degradation, have shown that unmanaged tourism can destroy heritage. Consequently, global frameworks stress conservation practices such as carrying capacity limits, stakeholder participation, and heritage impact assessments. Efforts like UNESCO's Sustainable Tourism Toolkit guide managers to balance visitor access with preservation. In summary, the global discourse sees cultural heritage tourism as a positive development opportunity if it is managed sustainably and inclusively. Cultural and heritage tourism in India. India's tourism strategy strongly emphasizes cultural and heritage themes, with 44 World Heritage Sites, including famous monuments, temples, and cultural landscapes, along with countless local and regional heritage assets. India markets itself as a land of rich heritage. Cultural tourism is also seen as a tool for rural development and diversity promotions. National programs like the Incredible India campaign often highlights festivals, cuisine, and handicrafts alongside built heritage. Indian government support is evident. The Ministry of Tourism reports that in 2023, the northeastern region alone received about 1.2 crore domestic and 2.21 lakh foreign tourists. Ministry of Tourism initiatives under scheme like Swadesh Darshan and Prasad have funded infrastructure around heritage and pilgrimage circuits, including in northeastern states. The government also organizes events such as the International Tourism Mart to showcase regional culture. Scholars note India's diverse heritage portfolio. Besides stone monuments like Qutub Minar, Khajuraho, and ancient trade routes, India has a vast intangible heritage. UNESCO inscribed traditions includes Sankirtana and Kalbelia dance of Rajasthan, illustrating the overlap of culture and tourism. Although Northeast specific UNESCO listing are fewer. State and non-government organization efforts document tribal heritage. For instance, the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage has conducted projects in the North Northeast, such as mapping intangible cultural heritage in local museums. These projects aim to record folk dances, oral traditions, and crafts of the region's ethnic communities. Likewise, academic volumes have recently focused on shared heritage in Northeast India. Example, writing on ritual and folk arts among Himalayan and South Asian highland cultures. The economic significance of heritage tourism in India is also highlighted by market studies. Cultural tourism generates substantial rural income and foreign exchange. The Ministry of Tourism's survey imply that culture-driven travel is rising as middle-class tourists increasingly seek experiential journeys. Nevertheless, this growth has drawn attention to challenges around authenticity and community benefit in India's heritage destinations. Case studies from Northeast India. Northeast India is among the most ethnically diverse region in the country. Its tourism potential lies in both natural landscapes and unique cultural heritage. Below we outline some key cultural aspect and tourism initiative in this region, focusing on Northeast specific examples. Major tribes and ethnic groups. The Northeast is home to dozens of tribes and ethnicities, each with its own language, history, and cultural practices. For example, Arunachal Pradesh alone has 26 major tribes. Among these are the Apatani of Arunachal, Nagaland's Naga tribes, Mizoram's Mizo, Meghalaya's Khasi and Garo, Assam, Bodo, Missing, and Karbi, Manipur's Meiteis and Kuki, and Sikkim's Lepcha and Bhutia, to name a few. Each group sustains tangible heritage, distinctive architecture, clothing, handicrafts, and intangible heritage like dance, music, oral traditions. For instance, the Apatani tribe of Zero Valley practices sophisticated wet rice cultivation combined with fish farming, a system developed through centuries of experimentation. The villages features unique dry granaries and bamboo crafts, and they hold colorful festivals and a traditional village council that govern resources. UNESCO notes that the Apatani embody a living cultural landscape where man and nature coexist sustainably, preserved by custom and belief systems. Indeed, the Apatani cultural landscape has been proposed for UNESCO World Heritage listing. In Nagaland, over 16 Naga tribes each have their own festivals, agricultural rites, songs, and oral myths. Mizoram tribes, Mizo, Mar, Lai, etc., celebrate harvest festival like Sapchar and Seris bamboo music and shawl weaving. Meghalaya's Khasi Jayanti and Garo peoples have matrilineal social systems, animist tradition of nature worship, and famous festival Wangala, Chachuk, Minsim. Assam's tribal communities Boru, Karbi, Rabha, Missing, etc. practice their own folk dances, Bagurumba, bamboo dance, and maintain village shrine and water festival like Baisago. Manipur is dominated by the Meitei and various tribal groups with heritage such as classical Manipuri dance, martial arts, and temple arts. In Sikkim, the Lepcha people maintain ancient animist beliefs and Amchi, Tibetan medicine, tradition, while the Bhutia Nepa maintain Buddhist monasteries. These ethnic identities are often deliberately showcased in tourism. For example, community-based homestays in Assam's tribal villages allow visitors to witness daily life, weaving, and kitchen rites. Many festivals now drawn tourism. Nagaland's Hornbill Festival advertised itself as a festival of festivals, showcasing Naga tribal culture. During Hornbill, multiple tribes gather in Kisama near Kohima, Nagaland, displaying war dance crafts and cuisine for visitors. The festival's government website described it as a 10-day event to showcase Nagaland's rich and traditional cultural heritage and to let visitors experience the Naga cultural diversity in one venue. Similarly, music and dance festival in Manipur, Meghalaya, and Assam of Bihu both strengthen ethnic pride and attract tourists. Tangible and intangible cultural heritage. The Northeast tangible heritage includes historic temples and monuments, colonial era sites, and ancestral villages. Example are the Kamaikha temple in Guwahati, a major Shaktipeeth and pilgrimage site. The Dutch influence Imphal War Cemetery of World War II in Manipur, the Kangla Fort ruins in Imphal, and the Raj era palace of Tripura and Mizoram. In cultural space, the living root bridge of Meghalaya's Serapunji's area exemplify intangible wisdom in ecosystem management and are on UNESCO tentative list. The Apatani Zero Valley landscape itself, paddy terrace, village, forest is a cultural landscape of sustainable land use. Also, Assam's Majuli Island is both a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage site for its Satra and a developing eco-cultural tourism destination. Meghalaya's sacred groves and Nagaland's Juko Valley blend natural beauty with indigenous belief, drawing visitors. Intangible heritage is especially rich. Aside from the Manipur Sankirtana, Northeast tradition include tribal dances, material music, bamboo flute music, sacred chanting, and oral epics. For example, Sankirtan in Manipur, ritual singing, drumming, and dancing centered on Vaishnav temples is a UNESCO recognized living practice. It serves cohesive social functions and is even regarded as a visible manifestation of God in Manipur Vaishnavism. Similarly, Assam classic Raklila dance of Majuli Satra narrates Krishna's life. The local technique of marks making and bamboo work are intangible craft. Many tribal communities also maintain animist rituals tied to nature, which are showcase festival or community centers. Local handicraft and cuisine also constitute heritage attractions. Northeast India is famed for textile like Mekhela Sador of Assam, woven shawl of Tripura, Fijian of Mizoram, and wood bamboo craft can basket of Assam, hornbill artifact of Nagaland. Traditional dishes and beverages, rice beer like apong and Jew smoked meats, bamboo shoot pickle, add to the cultural appeal. Some of these have been documented by NGOs for heritage listing. For instance, the Khasi Jaru bamboo pipe music and apong beer making rituals are on state intangible heritage list. K Heritage Site, Pilgrimage Center and Cultural Landscape. Northeast India has several prominent heritage and pilgrimage destinations, many of which are focal point for cultural tourism, like Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve of Assam, Manas National Park and Tiger Reserve, Kamaikha Temple of Assam, a Shakti temple attracting pilgrims especially during the Ambubasi Mela, fertility festival, which is called fertility festival. The temple's tantric rituals and history drove both religious tourists and heritage visitors. Tawang Monastery, one of the largest Buddhist monasteries in India, a pilgrim site for Tibetan Buddhism, symbolizing Buddhist heritage in the Himalayas. Ramtek Monastery in Sikkim, seat of the Karmapa Lama, a center of Tibetan Buddhist culture and monastic tradition in Sikkim. Mangalberry Monastery of Himalaya Buddhist site, smaller monastery in Arunachal like Dirang, Tawang's Arjeling's complex, local temples and fort, example Manipur's Ibudhu Sanamahi temple, ancient pre-Hindu indigenous deity worship, Tripura's Unakoti rock carvings and Nirmahal Palace, Mahamaya pilgrimage site. Cultural landscapes, living root village of Meghalaya, Zero Valley and Apatani paddy fields of Arunachal, Ukhrul's Sirui Lily Reserve Manipur with local folklore and the indigenous tea garden and hill station, example Shillong Darjeeling border where colonial heritage mixes with tribal culture. In recent years, state tourism department have curated circuits linking such sites with cultural experiences. For example, tribal tourism packages in Nagaland or Assam take visitor to ethnic villages, wave shops, and festival Assam festivals. Assam Srimanta Shankar Dev Kalakshetra in Guwahati is a cultural center, museum complex preserving Assamese art forms. Tourism initiative and government involvement in Northeast India. The Indian government and regional bodies have launched initiative to harness Northeast India's cultural heritage. As noted earlier, the Ministry of Tourism's Northeastern Region report highlight funding for infrastructure under schemes like Swadesh Darshan 2.0 and Prasad. This scheme have finance projects such as the improved access route to Kaziranga and Manas, development of interpretation centers, and enhancement of pilgrimage amenities. The report also notes dedicated tourism training institution in Guwahati and Shillong, and promotional event like International Tourism Mart. At the state level, individual government sponsor cultural festivals and museums. Nagaland's Hornbill Festival is a state-run, as noted. Arunachal Pradesh organized festival like Festival of Music, LBT more global and cultural fair like Namami Nam celebration heritage craft. State cultural department have published inventories of tradition. For example, handwritten manuscript, folk tales, and craft techniques are being digitally archived. The Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage has a local presence in Guwahati and Shillong. Its Intangible Heritage Division completed project like mapping out ICS related museums in the Northeast to document community museum and cultural space. Such projects aims to safeguard oral histories, rituals and art of remote tribes by involving them as a custodian of their own heritage. International recognition has also spurred interest. Besides Sankirtana in Manipur, UNESCO's representative list includes Buddhist chanting of Ladakh and Durga Puja of Calcutta for this broader region, highlighting cultural festivals that often attract trips from the northeast. Furthermore, proposals like the Apatani cultural landscape and campaign to include Bihu, which is Assam's spring festival, on the intangible heritage list, so a concentrated effort to connect local culture to global heritage frameworks. Collectively, this initiative reflects growing awareness that cultural tourism can diversify the economic and build intercultural understanding. By packaging tribal culture and heritage sites, government hope to extend tourism beyond ecotourism to year-round cultural attraction. However, they also recognize the need to mitigate cultural disruption and environmental impact as visitor numbers rise. Challenges: conservation, authenticity, and sustainability. Heritage tourism in Northeast face significant challenges. Rapid tourism growth can lead to overcrowding of fragile sites, strain on infrastructure, and unintended social impacts. For instance, increasing visitation, sacred sites like Kamaikha has raised questions about preserving ritual sanctity. The phenomenon of over-tourism, more commonly noted at mainstream sites, also has echoes here. Tourism to national park like Kaziranga, Namdapha can impinge on wildlife, while tribal villages may feel cultural commodification. As Richards notes, cultural tourism success has triggered concern about sustainability, especially when World Heritage sites become oversaturated. In the Northeast context, remote areas lack infrastructures, so unchecked growth could harm ecosystem and livelihood. Conservation of heritage, both natural and cultural, is thus a major focus. Regulatory tools, including protected area status, example national park and biosphere reserve, heritage legislation, agroecological survey of India, overseas monuments, and cultural heritage acts. UNESCO and IUCN guidelines influence site management, example buffer zones around heritage zones. Local practices also play a role. Many tribes maintain sacred groves and customary forest use norms that contribute the environmental conservation. There is also an emphasis on cultural conservation, supporting handicraft cooperation, reviving endangered languages, and integrating heritage education in school. At Mysore's UNESCO meetings, participants have highlighted the necessity of community-based tourism approaches in such regions, ensuring that cultural ownership benefit and have agencies over how their heritage is represented. The question of authenticity is especially poignant in cultural tourism. As Timothy described, tourism may seek the real thing, but what is authentic can be elusive. In the Northeast, stage authenticity is common. For example, tribal dances might be presented nightly for tourists in imitation villages, which can distort their ritual meaning. Similarly, cultural landscapes may be romanticized for visitors. Example, idealizing images of indigenous dress rather than reflecting living changes. Scholars caution that authenticity is subjective. One person authentic experience might be another's tourist trap. Nevertheless, maintaining integrity is seen as vital. Projects often involve youth in these apprenticeships programs, example training as a tour guides for their own village so that heritage interpretation comes from insider. Sustainability in heritage tourism is a guiding principle. Environmentally, the region follows principle of ecotourism. Example, using local built bamboo infrastructure, promoting low impact trekking to protect fragile Himalayan and rainforest habitats. Socially responsible tourism guidelines encourage fair trade, crafts, and revenue sharing with communities. UNESCO's World Heritage and Sustainable Tourism Program, which now covers India, advocates for such integrated planning. For example, management plan for Kaziranga and Manas include community development goals like village sanitation so that tourism benefits local rather than fueling resentment. The Northeast cultural tourism strategies emphasize small group and experiential travel to avoid mass tourism pitfalls. Cultural and heritage tourism encompasses a broad field linking past and present through visitors' experience. Theoretical frameworks by scholars such as Timothy Richards, Lorenzo Smith, and Boyd highlight that heritage tourism is about engaging with history, identity, and authenticity, whether through monuments or living culture. Globally, tourism policy has increasingly embraced culture as a driver of development and conservation, though it continues to grapple with challenges of authenticity and sustainability. In India, and especially the Northeast, cultural tourism is seen as a vital for diversifying the economy and celebrating multiculturalism. The region's mosaic of tribes, festivals, art, and landscapes presents unique attraction from the rice terrace of zero to the rhythmic Sankirtana ceremonies of Manipur. Government schemes and community initiatives are working to map and promote this heritage. Example, INTCS ICS project, Nagaland's Hornbill Festival. However, stakeholders also recognize that heritage sites must be carefully managed. Conservation laws, visitor limits, and community engagement are seen as essential to protect both tangible monuments and intangible traditional for the future. Ultimately, cultural heritage tourism in Northeast India exemplifies the broader global balance, leveraging history and traditions of for development while ensuring that heritage remains a living legacy. Through collaboration among governments, NGOs, communities, and tourists, the region aims to showcase its heritage authentically and sustainably, honoring the past even as it travels into the future. Thank you.